All right. What if the biggest lie in SMB IT is that complexity is unavoidable? Bobby Glenn James, founder of BoTecha, is disrupting that narrative, proving that fewer tools, flat fee pricing, and root cause engineering can deliver predictable IT, zero drama support, and systems operators actually trust. Welcome to the show, Bobby Glenn James. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I love the energy that you came on with. I love the setup in the background, the cool things that you have, and obviously you're a pro at what you do and everything that you do. Did a little research on you and some of the background, and I will say as a Hispanic background, Colombian, I have some great Cuban, Puerto Rican, friends too that like Boteca sounded kind of cool, like Boteca, like you were in Miami or something like that. So anyway, but
It's
let's
actually very boring. Can I say it
yeah,
actually
yeah.
stands for something? People are like, where'd you come up with BoTecha? It actually stands for Business Operation Technology Advancement. It's
Okay.
about using technology to advance your business. I know there's so many people, BoTecha, where is that? What is that? And so anyway, I just want to say it's actually pretty boring where the name come from.
But how genius is it that it made me think of different things and like associate stuff with it, right? And stuff like that. And bodega, right, in Spanish is little shop, right? And it's like this cool, convenient place to go to from a bodega type stuff. So anyway,
Yes, I
but
love it. That's all. I've never thought of that, but that's perfect. I love it.
oh, awesome. Well, hey, look, Bobby, we love and Bobby Glenn James. Let's not mistake him with Bobby James. There's Bobby Glenn James. Let's share with people in our audience in the Go for SEO community. Where did this? Obviously, the name had a very simplistic way and not of putting it together, but it sounds cool. Where did that come from? Was this from an early time in computer science, and like, did you go to work for somewhere? Like, what was the ideation and inception of Boteca?
Oh man, such a broad. I love it. I hope I can dig down and kind of get it a little bit. There's a lot to me. I've actually been a part of over 30 different startups,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've had a lot of different stuff going on. But IT and connecting to technology has always been in my wheelhouse, in my vein. I was a corporate trainer in the 90s for many years, traveling all over training technology and doing all that stuff. And I loved technology. Then getting into the support aspect and getting into the back end IT, went through corporate, a lot of corporate ideations. And I disliked, I'm a people person, which people like, dude, I thought you were in IT. You're supposed to be this geek that doesn't like humans. And I did. I always did. I've always loved people, and I've always been really interested in how things work and processes and so I watched my counterparts in the IT world industry, and I'm like, man, they hate people. They're always annoyed with users because they don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, dude, they don't do this all day. Of course they don't know what they're doing. And I started to realize something was there in the corporate world when I would show up at the marketing team that's having an issue or something. They're like, oh my gosh, Bobby, we're so glad it's you. We hate those other guys. They're horrible to deal with. They're mean to us, or they talk mean, and I just at an early stage back in the 90s, I remember thinking, you know what? There's got to be a better way here. There's got to be a better way to deal with technology. And those years have passed, man. People don't put up with that kind of stuff as much anymore. It's not the same. And then I created BoTecha many, many years ago, went off on my own and decided, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be super, super service focused on the client, and kind of became a disruptor in the industry because managed services kind of has its way of doing things. And you go in, you find out what they need, then you kind of sell them more stuff than they actually need, then you find a way to kind of bill them a little bit more here and there. And that's just the industry. That's how it's been for years on years. And I'm doing my best to change that. We only believe as a strict service. We don't sell hardware or software, which is crazy when I tell managed service providers that. It's like, dude, that's where 70% of our revenue comes from. Well, in the future, on-prem and all of those things is going away, man. With AI and cloud services and all that stuff, the world is changing, and I believe it's going to be putting a lot of people out. I mean, we talk about putting a lot of people out of business. I'm talking specifically about IT service businesses. I think if they're not thinking ahead, change is coming. Does that help at all? I mean, I came from an entrepreneur background, or my dad was a hustler. Growing up as a kid, I was taught, early on that getting a job is one thing, but hustling is a fun and exciting thing. And yeah, I did the corporate world for many many years, but I'm as entrepreneur as you can get now.
I love it. I love it. Well, look, you were always an entrepreneur. In my opinion, I affectionately call you when you're at a company, and I'm a commercial banker day to day, right? I call myself an intrapreneur, right? Because you
Yep.
always had that mindset. You were always owning your position. You were owning the activities, the things that you had to do. So nobody had to tell you. You didn't have to have a manager and checking the box of the activities. You were owning it, right? So it just took a little bit of while to go on your own, and that's fine too, right? And I actually did the opposite. I sold my business in '09 and became a banker. So, but
I
I've
love
truly,
it. That's awesome. I love that whole because I get people all the time. I've been in a lot of entrepreneur groups and I get people all the time like, oh man, do I need to quit my day job? I'm going to go quit. I'm going to do it full force and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, that's that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. You do that side hustle, that side business. You play with it. You make it grow and see what happens. Then you think about quitting that day job. But I love it. You'll find out if you have the actual mindset to do that and the discipline, dude. People don't realize there is a lot of discipline involved in entrepreneurship and business building. And man, if you don't have that, go just stay in your trail. Sorry, I'll get off on
I
a
don't know.
on a
I love it.
tangent.
Well, it's funny, right? Most people are willing to work 9 to 5 and not 5 to 9. You understand that, right? Like,
Yes,
but if you can't work 5 to 9, how are you gonna work 9 to 5? So it's
absolutely.
it's a great breeding ground, and Go for CO, the community, I think is about that, right? There's certainly some great knowledge in there. My book, The 4A Formula, I talk about assess where you're at currently, take inventory, then align yourself with the right people, right? The Bobby Glenn James of the world, and then take accountability and then go out and take action. Bottom line, right? So, but anyway, enough of that. So, all right, so
Can I just say one thing that really jumped out at me when you talked about oh crap. Sorry, man. It disappeared. I was
hey, hey,
excited
I
about
just
what
turned
we were
50. I
talking
have those
about.
moments.
Let's move on, and if I remember, I remember.
No worries, you can bring it back. So, hey, look, BoTecha comes from basically the earthing of, hey, you were in corporate America, you were doing these things, you were entrepreneuring, and learning how to do these things and really having a passion for what you do in the IT world, right? You formed BoTecha, and I saw the website. You've got, you're a real business. Like you have employees that you actually have to pay on a payroll basis. And you build out these things and you build companies for your services, and you're competing against guys and gals that are maybe selling, like you said, 70% of their revenue is in a different silo of what you do. And you're not willing to compromise the integrity of the things that you're doing. And there's nothing necessarily intrinsically bad, right, with hardware, software, all that type of stuff. But like you said, is the overstacking, and then these companies are sitting there with two, three, four, five, 10 tech stacks that 3 or 7 of them they don't even use. So let's get into that part, because I know one of the things we talked about offline is disruption. And you are in the breath of the beast, right? So let's get into that, and then we'll get into obviously still some of the other stuff of scaling and operating and being a leader and all that good stuff.
Awesome. I love it. For your listeners and stuff, people that are either entrepreneurs now or they're excited about create, they've got an idea and they're wondering, they're trying to get knowledge to see where they can go with their business. I, I when I look back at the great things that have been created, they've all been disruptors. Henry Ford, I mean, he said, let's make a car everybody can afford. Dude, it was a giant disruption and it it made him, Ford Motor Company, right? Steve Jobs said, "Hey, we're going to disrupt." And everybody said, "You want to make computers for people? That's insane. That's stupid. It's a disruption." And when you get a hold of something, when you see, everybody says, if you want to make a business, you see a problem and then you figure out a solution for that problem. And that's the simple part. But if you can find a disruption in that problem, somewhere where nobody else is figuring out how you can go in and change how everything is done, that's the magic. That's where you really start to make a huge difference. And in my world of IT services and being in this industry for over 25 years, I just saw that the disruption is, what if we truly actually had the client's best interest at heart? What if we truly said, what could we do to make their company run the best that it possibly can? I'll tell you, one of my clients, they went from when we first started taking care of them, they were a manufacturing company and they were doing about $1 million in revenue and had about 1.5 million in debt. And they were struggling, they were toughing it out. And we came in, when we went in there, everything was pirated. Everything was nothing, no technology they had there. It was some kid came in and just did stuff. We built that company over 10 years. And I say we because we put in all the technology that grew that company to a $20 million company in revenue and then sold at a 18x, which is unheard of in the world of manufacturing, that nobody has ever done that. And so that's what I want to do. I want to actually put the client first because I believe, and this is why I have clients that we've had 17 years. Most of
Mhm.
my clients are in the double digit numbers of years that they've been with us because they know how much I care. They know how much my employees care. They know how, because that's how I hire. Techs are a dime a dozen. I can teach anybody technology, but I can't teach people how to be a decent human being. You're either a decent human being or you're not. I can't teach that. When I hire, I take a long time to make sure they're a cultural fit, to make sure that they understand Bobby is all about the client and truly, honestly caring about the client. Because when it's real, the client knows it. When it's a slogan on your website, they know that too, right? And so I tell people, you want good customer service, you could go to classes and you could get taught all these customer service things, but if you want really good customer service, love your employees and let them know that you love them.
Mhm.
And they will kill to support their clients. They will do anything they can when they know that they're with a company that cares about them. I, I know I get a little woo woo and I use the love word, which we don't use a lot in business, but it's a core thing with me. I care. I'm actually writing a book called Care right now. It's a business model, in my opinion, to the more you can care about a client and actually do good things for them, the more you'll keep them. And the same thing with employees. The more you care about, I've got employees. I've got one, he left 8 years ago and he still calls me every month and says, "Bobby, man, I love you, dude. You were so awesome to me. I don't know why you even hired me, but thank you so." Every month. And for 8 years, we go to lunch all the time. He makes, he makes six-figure income now. And anyway, I'll get off on my differentiator is actually care. It's not a slogan, but actually caring about the client. How hard could that possibly be?
Okay, so let's get deep into it, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of times where I work with a lot of businesses, right? And the bottom line is the bottom line. We got to get to EBITDA strength, especially when you're trying to bank them and give them other resources and other capital needs from a debt perspective. But I go into companies that, yeah, there is, like you said, sometimes the slogan doesn't match the actions. Sometimes the actions differ from a different perspective in the season of their business that they're in. So from your perspective, as the CEO, one thing I noticed, to be honest, when I looked at your website and the about and then all your people, they were all dressed comfortably of how they represented themselves. They
We
weren't
don't wear
all
we don't wear shirts with logos. I know that's a faux pas. You should not. You always wear logoed shirts, especially in managed services. That's funny you see that. Sorry, man. I
no,
love
no, go ahead.
I just and I've went to industry deals and entrepreneur programs, and they all you've got a brand, and I want to be a part. In my techs, they are a part of the companies that we support. We are not this white knight coming to save them. We are, and they look at us as employees. They do not look at us as consultants. And that's the way I want it. I don't want to come in with our logo to say, hey, we're here. And people say, well, that's how you spread your word and stuff. The word gets out.
Yeah. Well, when you're good, the word gets out, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And when you're bad, the word gets out. So,
Yeah, yeah. There's not many logos that can save bad service and bad business, right? So, um,
100%.
no, and I love it. And I think, so to go back to a little bit of the depth of that, right? When I think about the clarity of how you service a client and where that becomes the differentiator of, like we started out at the beginning, 10 levels of tech stack, and they're only using three of the 10, and they're paying a monthly service fee or whatever. So give us some examples. Like when you guys walk into a company, what are two or three things that you first evaluate? And if they're asking you like, "Hey, I need this because I researched it on my own. I found you. Why don't you deliver it to me?" In that scenario, what is it that is functionally different about the way that you deliver it from a sense that you literally went, to the things that they only needed?
Yeah, let's go about that a little. I'm going to use I'm thinking somewhat recently we did some stuff where we had a client reach out to us. It was a construction company. They were doing about 150 million in revenue, and they were just, you know what? Hey, could you come look at the current IT service company that's taking care of us? We just don't feel right about some things, and so I went and sat down with the COO, and it was bizarre. So they were charging them a monthly fee because that's what managed service does. A lot of it is a monthly fee, and it was $1,600 for this pretty large company, which is very cheap.
Hmm.
$1,600 to take care of a 100 employee company doing 150 million in revenue. That's crazy, right? So I mean that dude, you got to stay with those guys. Except that every invoice every month was over 5 grand. Every invoice. Yeah, and I'm looking at the invoices, and there's like moved this monitor to this desk and did an hourly charge for that. And every little bitty tiny thing, anytime they called for anything, and there were several things that were wrong that were wrong every week. And without getting too much into detail, they had some QuickBooks stuff on a server that kept locking up every week, and they would have to call every week, and they would reset it and restart it and do their thing, and they would get a bill for that every week. Um, Now, when they decided, yeah, I said, you know what? Here's what we do. This is how we do it. We definitely, I think, can take care of some things. And what happened, what inevitably happened, is we went in, and it took us a day to fix that QuickBooks thing, and they never had that problem again. They never had to call anybody. And why didn't that company do that?
Hmm.
Because it was not to their advantage to fix a problem that they could fix over and over and over again. It's just, hey, you know what? We'll put a band-aid on it. That means they'll have to call us again. Now, I know that sounds like I'm saying they're being dishonest. I don't think they're necessarily being dishonest as much as they're just saying, we're not going to worry about it. They'll call us and then we'll fix it, and we'll get an hourly fee for that. That's that's kind of how it works. That's how the MSP works. And I just don't like that. The one thing we don't do, and here's the other deal, is a lot of times when you get a new IT service, they go in and they're like, okay, we're all IT guys know everything, and they're all so super smart that when they go in, they look at the way it is and they're like, oh, yeah, this is all wrong. Everything here is wrong. No matter who, what IT company, no matter what, when they go in, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst. We have to we have to redo everything. So for 75 grand, we'll go and put it the way it's supposed to be. Right. That's kind of the deal. And the company doesn't know anything. I mean, the business owner is like, dude, I need my company to run well. I don't, yeah, I believe you. It's all crap. Those last guys sucked. Uh, Not necessarily. We usually go in, we change as little as we possibly can in the very beginning because of disruption, and because usually any IT service company should know something of what they're doing. And I know it's usually a thing that you go in and you go, hey, we got to change everything. We just don't do that. We sit for like a year usually. It takes us to start moving into the cookie cutter of lean IT and getting the buy-in from the company. They don't really understand what we mean by lean IT until a year later, and they're like, oh man, things are just better. They run better. We don't ever have any problems. What are you guys even doing anymore? I tell people, if you're wondering if we're doing anything, that means we're doing a hell of a good job.
Hmm.
And
It's
and so
like a good lineman in football. If you don't listen, you don't hear the name, they're doing
they're
good.
doing a good job. Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know if that answers the question, but there's so many intricate pieces, and a lot of times when you talk about the tech stack and an IT service company, the more stacks they can add, those are more problems that can be had, right? And what does that mean? That means more things they can fix. So it's good for them to be able to stack more problems on the company. And a lot of those things are, hey, they've got good sales reps. These people have got good sales reps, and they go, man, this can do this and this and this for your company. Um, ah, Gosh, and I love it when a VAR or a sales rep comes in and goes, yeah, this will do 400 things. We do 400 this and this and this and that and the other. And in the corporate world, I'd love talking with them. Guy, I'm like, dude, I needed to do three. I wanted to do three, but I wanted to do three really well, not 400 half A,
Mhm.
right? And that's the world where it's like we're going to give you more and more and more, but the more you give, the less better it is. The bigger and more robust. I see all of these SaaS stuff coming out now with everything at the kitchen sink, and they don't do anything well. They just do everything a little bit pretty good, right?
And
And I that model to me doesn't work, especially when you scale a business. You can scale so much better, and it's weird because the bigger a company gets, the more um, enterprise level a company gets, the more intricate stuff is. And it's still, man, if we just realized if you could get less complicated, you can grow bigger, quicker, easier with less headache.
hmm.
If you've ever been in a company that's went from 100 million or from 10 million to 100 million, that growth process is brutal. And if you could take the tech headaches out of that, and I believe we do every day, you could talk to our clients and they're like, especially ones that have had other services, they're like, dude, this is night and day. I trust Bobby over anybody else. And the crazy part is IT, they have the keys to everything in that, but they could destroy, I mean, they could destroy that business if they wanted to. And I've seen some pretty underhanded things with MSPs that, I mean, this holding clients hostage and stuff, it sickens me. It makes
Yeah.
me so angry. I'm like, you're giving my industry a very, very bad name. And unfortunately, it's 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 throughout. There's a lot of it going on. And anyway, I'm in the world to change that.
No, I love it. And look, I'd love to understand too, just to kind of take a step back within the conversation we just had. Is there a level between startup and 1 million in revenue? Is it quantifiable in that sense where, you talked about a $10 million company going to 100 million, and that's a big leap, like you said. And there's always different things within, all the interviews I've had. It's always a different mindset, a different tech stack, a different way of doing things, a different process, a different an allocated SOP to change, whatever all that stuff. So could you give us, just from a layman's perspective, let's say 0 to 1 million, okay? And then 1 to 10, and then 10 to 100. Are there three different areas within each one of those? Like, is 0 to 1 million simply I've got a laptop, I've got an internet cable, I've got, telephone system that works, and I've got a good CRM. Would that be constituted as a good IT for like 0 to 1 million? And then go from there.
I love that question. You like me, and probably a lot of your listeners have probably read many, many books on what you just asked. How do you go from 0 to 1 million? And most of those books, and I think any of us that have done that realize that's the hardest one.
Hmm.
Uh, 0 to 1 million, that's the hardest one. Uh, and 0 to 100,000 is that first thing. And I think 0 to 100,000 is where you got your laptop, you're a single individual entrepreneur, and you totally can do that. But once you get over $100,000, you can't create anything by yourself that's worth having.
Hmm.
My biggest deal about growth and moving forward is you got to have the right people. You got to have and I think that was one of Steve Jobs's true genius, was his ability to hire the best. And you can look at any book that's about Steve Jobs and you'll hear all the time, I only want A players, because a few A players could do 10 times what B or C players can do. So, and I 100% believe that that's the only way to move and to grow, is to have people. I don't, this is a big deal to me, because at one time in my career, I had to do it all because I was the only one that cared enough. And I
Hmm.
remember seeing a deal that Gary Vaynerchuk had said, that somebody had asked him, how can I make my employees, care as much as I do? And he's like, you can't make your employees care as much as you do, because you created this thing. It's your baby. And man, I owned the crap out of that. And I was a micromanager, and I'm watching everybody, and man, don't do anything without talking to me first. And it just about killed me. It
Hmm.
almost killed me. And it wasn't until I realized, dude, I've got to hire people that I can trust, that I know will at least care about the people they're serving as much as I do. Maybe not about my company and how it will grow or whatever, but at least have the care that I have for them. And when I started really focusing, because I've hired people that were bad hires. I mean, we all have, and I've learned some things along the way about that. A resume is not, that means nothing. Sitting down with a person and talking to them, dude, I will take potential employees to lunch several times, even golfing before I hire them. Because if you want to really know what somebody's about, take them golfing. You'll find out who they are real quick if
Yeah.
they golf. Of course, if they don't golf, then no dice. But anyway, my point is, to get from 100 million or 100,000 to 1 million, you're going to need a team. You're going to need a team of A people, and that's the first step. Um, uh,
So, but
and
nerd out with me a little bit on the technology side, just for giggles here. Like, you said that solopreneur really needs a laptop, a good connection, great internet, and a good telephone, right? And nowadays, your mobile. That 100,000 to 1 million, which, by the way, you could Google this. I think it's 8% of businesses in America
make it to a million.
produce $1 million in revenue, which
Yeah.
is amazing because it's 33 million companies, or at least in corporations, that are out there.
But you know
So,
what the percentage from 1 million to 10 million is? It's way higher.
oh,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
explode. Okay.
Yes. No, it once you get past the $1 million mark, that's the big
That's
For whatever reason, that's the big weird thing. And once there, I can't remember the exact numbers, but if you're a person that has grown a company to 1 million, the more people that grow it to 10 million or so many, and anybody that makes it to 10 million go to 100 million, the percentage is even crazier than that. So
Yeah,
that
those
one,
people in that realm, then that percentage gets higher because now they've learned the principles, right, of it. So
yes, yep,
that makes sense. Yeah, because I was going to say the percentages, relatively speaking, to the higher pie is very tiny, but in general, it's like that's 100%, right? Once you've learned that process, the mechanisms and the activities that it takes, then you just tweak it to the way that, okay, now it's going to take me to get to 15 million is a little bit different, but similar process, right? Stuff like
yeah.
that. But
And
again,
you said it, only 8% make it to the million. And that's the weeding process. It really is. This is where you're going to find out if this is what you really want to do with your life is create something.
yeah,
It's hard. It is a hard. People tell me all the time, Bobby, what do you do, man? I don't see you. I don't, you're just living like you go to lunch with all these, you do all this, you go to this stuff. I'm like, what do you go to conferences? Dude, what? And they're like, dude, I worked 80 hours a week for years on end to be where I'm at today.
of course,
There
100%.
is no easy way around building a company. It is freaking hard work. It is hard work. And if you're not willing to make a ton of sacrifice, I'm sorry, this is the secret to success is working your butt off. It just is. And this isn't new. This isn't something I came up with. Every freaking book on the planet will tell you the same thing. Um, anyway, I get
Wait, you don't
passionate.
just manifest your way to success?
Yeah, well, no. I mean,
I
you can.
mean,
I think manifesting's a great thing as long as
100%.
you take some action. As long as you take some action,
That's the key. It's like having a recipe and forgetting the baking soda or the flour or whatever it might be.
it
Um,
won't rise.
that won't rise because that's the key, the element, right? And I love my wife, talks about it a lot too. She's in these groups and talks about manifestation and I love it. I mean, I think visualization, manifestation, and putting yourself in that realm. But ultimately, like my book, the biggest chapter, it's on action. And it talks about, many of the interviewees that I've had on is ultimately you can go to every webinar, listen to every podcast, read every book, but without action, it's meaningless, right? So anyway,
Unfortunately, we call them entrepreneurs, right? They want to do it, but they're
that's the
not
E
taking the
myth.
action. Oh,
There's a guy actually that I follow recently that just started something called the operator standard. I don't know if you ever hear Andy Frisella. So he runs I mean, it's probably worth $1 billion now, but he had 10 years of these vitamin supplement stores that he started with $12,000 for one store for the whole year. He rented it for $1,000 a month. And it's funny, 10 years he paid himself like $500 a month at best, right? And now the guy's, done very well. His businesses, multi-businesses, different brands, all that type of stuff in that same kind of space. And it's interesting. The thing that he talks about is 100% that is that ultimately there is no the illusion of a fix, something that's going to propel you different than other people. There is no fix to hard work, right? And understanding that principle. So, well, let's get into as I mentioned, saw the people on your website, and I loved that they had their own style for their own biopic and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on leadership? Because there's a lot of things online about you that talk about your leadership style and the things that you've done. Besides obviously disrupting, and it was cool to hear kind of how you're envisioning disruption in your industry. What's your thoughts once you hired your first person and how you took lessons from to fire fast and now hire slow?
you glitched out for just a second.
Yeah, no,
Say
no. So I was asking, when did you start to learn that hire slow but fire fast scenario?
leadership is a such an interesting thing to me. Like you and like so many leaders or entrepreneurs, we do a lot of research. I've read, dozens upon dozens of leadership books, and everybody's got good information, and there's great information. For me, I know this is a broken record for me, but it comes back to caring about the employees. And this even means when you talk about firing fast, this even means firing them.
Mhm.
I've been in situations where, I've fired, many people, and I always look at it as a positive thing for them and me. I remember one time sitting down with an employee, and I said, you know what, dude, I don't see you're happy here, and this isn't your thing, man. This is you're supposed to do something else. And we had a sit down, let him go, and 2 years later, I see him, and he comes to me, gives me a big hug, and he's like, "Dude, you changed my life." And it was just he's like, "Man, I'm the manager of this thing, and I'm loving my life, and I'm this is my fiance, and I don't know, dude. That was cool." And he said, when you fired me, I felt like you actually cared about me.
Mm.
And I did. And I did. And I knew he wasn't happy. It wasn't, why would you keep somebody that hates what they're doing? That's an injustice to your clients, and it's an injustice to them. So when I talk about leadership, I always say, you know what? You cannot fake caring about somebody. You can't. You either do or you don't. And I happen to do. I do care about my employees, and I care about my clients. And that's something that's innate in me. I've always been that kind of a person. I hated bullies. That's another reason I like IT and security and stuff. I hated bullies. There's so many bullies. I'd fight the bullies all the time, man. I'd get in knockdown dragouts when somebody was taking advantage of a kid in school. Man, I would get in the thick of it. And now I look at myself as protecting people from the internet bullies, from the cyber bullies, and so I just have a caring soul, and I think that bleeds over into leadership. One of the biggest things is, a boss is a boss, but a leader is somebody that's going to get in the front. They're going to be on the front line. My guy's not, dude. I still to this day will go to a client with my guys and run some cable.
Mm.
I'll still freaking jump up in the ceiling. Dude, I'm 57 years old. I shouldn't be doing that stuff anymore, but I do. I'll jump up in the ceiling, throw some cable, and laugh and have fun with my guys. I love that, dude, and they love it that I'm willing to do that because I care about them. I care about the client. Gosh, it sounds so trite, but it's true. If you want to be a great leader, care about the people you lead, period.
Yeah. Well, and I love the example of firing that gentleman that found his way because you told him the why too, right? In my day-to-day of commercial banking, sometimes, we can't do every loan. But I don't say, hey, sorry, you were declined. I say, hey, look, in the next 3, 6, 12 months, for us, we can't do this loan. We can't bank you this way. But here's 3 or 4 different steps that I would recommend that you guys could tweak so that your EBITDA could grow, so that these expenses go down. Here's a contact that I have in managed IT service because you're overstacked on your technology. You're spending 25,000, you should be spending 10, whatever it may be. You gave that guy a why. Why don't you really fit in this organization? I see it. It's real, and I'm not going to push you another 6 to 12 months where you're miserable. And look what happened. 12 to 18 months later, he's thanking you because you actually cared, which is what a great form of leadership that corresponded to. So I love it. I love it. So help me understand. You're at a point where, off camera, and I hope you don't mind me saying this. You had talked about scaling and acquisition. A lot of people don't know, from that 0 to 1 million, that's the hardest. But then you just said a real great secret. Like from 1 to 10 gets a little bit easier because that percentage of people that hit 1 million now have those competencies. So what's your thoughts on scaling right now? Where are you guys at with BoTecha and what do you want to do for the next 12 to 18 months?
We are in super growth mode. I tell a lot of people for many years, my biggest problem was I was comfortable.
Mm.
Company was doing well, clients were great, and I was off gallivanting around doing other startups and doing crazy things. And my little IT company just kept going, it kept running, it kept doing its thing. And it wasn't until last year that I said, this is crazy. I'm off on all of these crazy gallivanting around, creating these things that are pet projects for me that were fun. I had a lot of fun. I traveled all over the country and I did conferences and keynotes and crap like that. And it just hit me that if I'm going to create a legacy, I need to buckle down and figure something out. And I look back and I'm like, you know what? I've had BoTecha for 17 years and I could make an impact with this thing. I could actually make a difference instead of just loving the clients that I have. And so last year we really started focusing on growth. And acquisition is one of the big pieces to growth. Once you get to a certain level, I mean, you can't, if you're making $100,000 a year, going and buying a $2 million IT service company is probably that's not, I mean, I guess it could happen if you had a big house. Anyway, that's not how it works, right? So you've got to have some growth yourself. And then growth is an interesting thing. A lot of the 17 years of BoTecha, we did no sales, we did no marketing. It was word of mouth, period. That was
Mm.
it. We grew from word of mouth, just from clients saying, "Hey, these guys are amazing." That was it. And somebody would call them, "Dude, who do you use?" or something. That was all we did. It wasn't until last year that we really started saying, "Hey, I'm gonna like take this on and be responsible and grow something that I can be truly, truly proud of, and that can be kind of um something for the world, I guess. I know that's crazy. Everybody wants to change the world, blah blah blah. But I just saw that there's a space there, so I decided to start moving forward. Um, you can only grow so much, one client at a time. You do your marketing, and marketing costs money, and there's ROIs on all that. You've got to pay attention to it. You can market your way right out of business if you'd like. I know folks that have spent several $100,000 on marketing and have gotten zero for it. So
Mm.
that's a hard road to hoe. But if you want to grow really quick, really fast, find the guy that's tired of it, that's grown something that's maybe doing a 500,000 in revenue or 1 million, and they're like, you know what, I've put blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I'm kind of gosh, I see this, to them a 700 or a $1.5 million buyout is an awesome deal for them. Like, man, I can go and do all kinds of cool stuff, and I just grew my company double. I just doubled my company size in one whack.
Mhm.
And I had one of my lawyers said, Bobby, why don't you just spend more money on marketing and just get those clients yourself? And I'm like, dude, it doesn't work. You- Yeah, I could spend $1.5 million on marketing. I might double my company, but I probably won't. So acquisition, once you get to a certain point, I think once you hit that $1 million mark, that's when it's time to start going, okay, now if we're going to get to that 10 million point, and that's our goal here in the next 5 to 10 years is to be $100 million company. That's our goal. And I think it's absolutely doable with my new focus. There's a lot of books out there that'll tell you you have to focus, you have to quit. As entrepreneurs, we go this way and that way. And I would always go, yeah, that's for everybody else because I can't focus on one thing. My ADHD can't do that. Uh, but I have realized finally, after 30 years of jumping on the next thing, going all over the place, yeah, you do have to focus. You have to
Yeah.
focus. You have to go down and get in the dirt with one thing.
I love it. The same guy I follow, Andy, he talks about you basically reignited the purpose, right? Because you got to a level where you got to go play and you got to see shiny object syndrome. Oh, I can invest in this. I can do that. I can do that. But when you came back to another guy, Alex Hermosi talks about it, like you realize, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, if you go back to focusing on what you created, number one, that $10 million company could be $100 million if you focus right in. So
You say Alex Hermosi. It was probably a year ago where I was listening to him say something, and I'm like, "Oh, screw you, dude! I'm having a blast doing all this stuff. Whatever. That's not for everybody." And now I'm, of course, tooting a different horn. But whatever. I
well,
mean,
and it's
look at him,
insane.
look at me, and whatever.
So I have a great mentor, I call Papa Cap, and he talks about people come into your life for a season, a reason, or a small time, right? Um, and well, it's a season or a reason. And it's interesting because just like business, right? Um, if there is no purpose in the head person, the founder, right? And that's why it's so hard to be a founder because when you get to a success level you've got to still be driven by something outside of money, outside of these things that you already, because you worked so hard in 80-hour weeks, nobody saw those 80-hour weeks when you were golfing and having fun and investing and doing these other things. They didn't see the 80-hour weeks times multiple years. So you took a season to take a step back and now you're reignited, you're repurposed, you're ready to focus. And now the
That's
next
giving
step,
me chills. That's giving me chills
I
because
love
it's
it. I love
true.
it.
It's so true.
Well, that's why, another guy, I keep on mentioning these people, like Ed Milet talks about entrepreneurship's the number one self-development, program in the world, because
100%.
you
Oh,
develop yourself
man.
by so many ways that you're out there in the marketplace. So awesome stuff. So hey, look, as we wrap up the podcast, we go over CEO, just like go over CEO. C is for client experience, and we'll talk about BoTecha and what that really means from a value proposition. So that's what I want you to concentrate on is client experience. 30, 60 seconds, shoot away.
Client experience, trust and peace of mind. That's the big thing I want my clients. They trust that we've got their best interests at heart, and they have peace of mind that everything is going to be perfect in the technology space for that client. Peace of mind and trust. That's the two things I want from my clients.
Awesome, brother. Well, now E is for engagement. I heard you're a golfer, so that might be one of the ways that you engage. But what are the ways that you take your employees, you take your vendors, you take your clients, even your family? Like who around you would describe the way that you engage with people?
A lot of people say that Bobby knows everybody when I'm out and about. And everybody says I'm this huge extrovert, and I guess I am, but I still have to go sit in a corner somewhere and be by myself. But I just love people, so I'm going to every kind of event. I go to entrepreneur events. I go everybody. I even MC events. I do a lot of fundraising. I do a lot of MCing at fundraisers. Anybody that's involved in something, I am a big proponent of awareness of suicide prevention,
Yeah.
and I'm a big part of that whole world. And I just anywhere there's people, anywhere there's something fun going on and engaging and connection, and where people get to know each other, I'm usually in it, a part of it. I have because that's been me for so many years. This last year, because of this whole, I have kind of backed up and said, you know what, I'm going down and kind of figuring out Bobby a little more. But just being where the people are, especially golf tournaments, golf tournaments are so interesting because yeah, I mean, people, if you understand golf, you understand it's this crazy mind game. It's not just hitting this little ball. It's this crazy stuff around it. And everybody that's there kind of gets it too. They're like, ah, man, this is This isn't something you just get. And we're all, it's this fellowship of folks, men, women. I love the women golfers, man, they're bad A's and they're just, they've got this mindset that's insane. So golfing, and I'm a sucky golfer, dude. I am not a good golfer at all. I just love it. I love being out in nature, dude. We had a bobcat run in front of us this year. It was freaking awesome. I'm like, oh, maybe we should be scared. I think that could attack and kill us, but whatever. Anyway, I just love being where the people are, and the people know that I'm happy to see them when I see people I know, and my wife just smiles. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Bobby, you know everybody," and I love that I know everybody. I love it that there are so many fascinating, interesting, wonderful people, especially in the entrepreneur space, because that entrepreneur mindset is so different, and we are creatives more than anything. We're creatives.
Yeah.
We have this creative. I believe entrepreneurs in a lot of ways are artists.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Painting the picture, right? And
yeah,
putting it out there for other people to find those solutions for the problems, right? So
absolutely.
awesome. All right. So and look, this is your business, always operational excellence. So this is probably be a simple one for you. When you think about operational excellence and BoTecha, what tools are you using coming from your own space? What are you doing that is simplifying and expediting and creating great processes for your operations?
The big thing is the people that I have. That is my biggest, most special piece. My operations manager, she is a rock star. She is unbelievable, and I just can't. I couldn't run this company without the amazing people that are involved in it. So the technology is simple, man. We have a CRM, we have we use this back end stuff, and we have some cloud services and blah blah blah. The same stuff everybody else uses. I believe on a simpler scale because that's my thing. I don't want to buy more or do more than I actually need to run the company well. But it comes down to the people. It comes down to having amazing A players, and that is everything to scale a company, to grow a company, to create a company that's worth having.
You just did a aha moment, right? I haven't heard someone describe the operational excellence through their people. So pretty awesome stuff. I appreciate you sharing. And I've done 300 plus interviews.
Really
You're the first,
interesting.
you're the first CEO that has actually explained operational excellence, not so much, and everybody's done a great job, but it's interesting that you put the people in front of Monday.com or this Salesforce CRM or whatever, technology that you just said. So truly sharing Go for CEO community, why Bobby Glenn James is a differentiator, a disruptor, and being something that he's come back to his baby that he created and now is going to go to the next level. So how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way to interact with BoTecha? And how can people connect with you guys?
BoTecha.com is probably the simplest. I mean, we have all the socials, LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, or X, sorry. All those places. You can also BobbyGlennJames.com. That's me. Yeah, you can look up Bobby Glenn James on the internet. Anyway, I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome, brother. Well, hey, thank you so much. And Go for SEO community, if you haven't checked out my book, it came out in October, doing really well and sharing a lot of insight of taking a formula to make it simple and think like a CEO. So the 4A formula on Amazon. Thank you so much, Bobby Glenn, for being on the Go for SEO channel.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, John.